Welcome to this short series of 4 training modules for personal assistants, or PAs. In this series, we're going to take a deep dive into the unique aspects that come with being a PA for someone with significant care needs, including working in someone's home, supporting your employer's preferences, having boundaries, and maintaining relationships. We hope this series will help you further in your journey of being a PA. As a PA supporting someone with significant care needs in their own home, you play a vital role in enabling them to live as independently as possible. This approach to care is highly personalised and focuses on enhancing the quality of life of the individual based on their unique preferences and needs. Understanding the perspective of the disabled person receiving care is key to providing effective support. We're first going to look into the emotional aspect of depending on someone for essential care and support needs, and why it's important for a PA to try and understand how this feels from their employer's perspective.
I'm very dependent on my PAs for a lot of my very basic physical survival needs. And that means that we're in an incredibly complicated relationship where I might have the power of an employer, but fundamentally I'm dependent on my PA for basic survival, let alone having a self-actualized life. So it means really that I need my PAs to understand that without their support, I'm really stuffed. It's not a job that you can just kind of not turn up to or turn up to with half your brain switched on when someone else's life and survival depend on it.
It took me a while to realize that allowing somebody to help doesn't mean that I have to lose control. So these days I need help with everything, but I'm in charge of who does it and how they do it. And accepting help from other people, it does mean I'm dependent, but it allows me to improve my life and to focus my energy on the things I enjoy. I think it's important for PAs to understand what it means to be dependent because it might seem like I'm being fussy or bossy when I'm telling my PA how I want something to be done, but actually having control over what happens to me is essentially it's my way of coping mentally with being dependent on somebody else for everything I need. So I think I need a PA to understand that I'm not being bossy. This is kind of essential for me as part of being dependent. I think when you can't do things by yourself, it's reassuring to know that you still have some control. For example, when I'm getting my arm into the right position to to use the computer or to be comfortable, I can be quite picky. Like, there can be a few millimeters difference between whether it's comfortable or not comfortable. So I think it's really important that the PA knows that I'm not doing it just because I'm fussy. I'm doing it because it really makes a difference to whether it works for me or not.
Just as you organize your day in the way that's easiest and convenient for you, and you do things in the way that is most efficient for you and how you use your time, I want to be able to do the same thing. And that's something that I need my PAs to understand, that means actually that they're not always doing things in the way that they think is easiest or is most efficient for them or most convenient for them, because it's my life and I've got my reasons for doing things the way I do. Those reasons might look like they're ridiculous, they might look like really good reasons, but I want to do things in the way I want to do them. And that sometimes makes more work for a PA than if they were to do them their way. But it's my life. And I think that's something that PAs don't really understand, that it might just be a day at work for them, but for me, it's every day.
I think I would say to a PA that you should try to put yourselves in the shoes of somebody who doesn't get to control what happens to them. That will allow you to think about how you can give some power back to the person you're supporting and how you can make sure that the person you're supporting feels in control. I think that's a really important skill for PAs.
As a PA, one of your primary responsibilities is to meet your employer's needs while supporting their desire for independence. It's essential to recognize that everyone has unique requirements and preferences, and you must respect and address these in a way that aligns with how your employer wants to be supported.
Accepting that whatever your background as a PA or working in care, you don't know how this individual likes to do things. So effectively, you're starting from scratch. And I think you need to be okay with that. And I think you need to ask a lot of questions and really pay attention to everything that your employer is telling you and is saying. And try to understand why you're asked to do things in a certain way. And most importantly, particularly for me, I would say just don't judge people for how they live their lives, because it will be different from how you choose to live your life.
Okay, so once you fully understand our needs, you understand them from a technical point of view, but also an emotional point of view. It isn't just about how do you wash me in the morning. It's about the fact that you need to respect, and if you understand our care needs, there's a little less need for us to overly explain. For example, some people can be very uncomfortable with needing their personal care done by a PA. So learning that routine, asking those questions at the beginning, learning how they like things, reading any documentation they might have, allows you to know fully what you're doing without potentially embarrassing them.
My best PAs are really aware not just of kind of what the routine is and what we need to get through every day, but also of exactly what I am and am not physically able to do. And they've just worked that out through, I suppose, observation and time. But those PAs that really know what I can do, what I can't do, and what's really difficult are the ones who are best at making the decisions about how to support me and when. And that then means that I have to spend a lot less of my time trying to work out what to communicate to them, because they don't just know what the tasks are, they understand what my needs are, and that's a lot easier.
If you're new to working as a PA, there are several ways that can help you in understanding your employer's needs. Charlie Walker explains.
So my first thing would always be ask questions. Read any and all documents given about your job and your employer. If you don't understand something, ask in training. Your boss would always rather you ask than just try and wing it and make mistakes that could potentially do a lot of damage. You know, some of us need very high medical care. You know, I have a lot of respiratory care involved. So if you made a cock up on that, then you'd be a little bit, you know, if you messed up on that, that would be very difficult to resolve. I think it's also really important to always have a notebook on you, whether you're in training or even after you've been there for months, a couple of years. My girls still keep the notebooks on them because at the end of the day, you can't remember everything in life. PAs do have a heck of a lot to learn and remember. So by having notebooks, setting alarms on your phones, perhaps for my respiratory care, my PAs when they're new, I get them to take a picture of everything we need on their phone that they can refer to. So use technology to your advantage. You know, if you're perhaps a bit dyslexic and can't write your instructions, voice memo it to yourself. Just really, really ask the other PAs working there, ask their family. If there are any medical people involved in your training, ask them questions. Just be open and also remember that yes, sometimes you are going to be going out for a night out, going on holiday, going to the cinema, but also sometimes people have chest infections and they might be fighting some real bad health problems. So you've got to remember this is a fun job, but it's also a very important job.
By having a good understanding of your employer's needs, you can really make a positive difference to their independence.
So a problem I often face is how I can use my computer, particularly when I'm gaming. My PA helps me by finding the right position and the right support for my arms and hands so that I can get the best use of the very limited movement that I have. So my best PAs are the ones that can look at the position of my arms and hands and figure out how best to position them. Or they can say, oh, that looks wrong, that doesn't look comfortable, that doesn't look like it's in the right position. So they can suggest solutions. And this allows me to play games, which are a real source of enjoyment for me.
So, to put it simply, without a long-winded answer, I have 6 guinea pigs, and obviously their cages need cleaned, and I'm not physically able to clean them. So, by my PAs cleaning them for me, it allows me to have these beautiful, furry little things, which are just so wonderful for my mental health. And the same with my dogs. Having PAs do the things for them that I can't allows me to be a good fur mummy.
Sometimes, however, the actions of a PA can have a negative impact on their employer's independence. Jamie Hale explains.
So I work full time, and that means that whether I'm working from home as usual or from a site if I'm working away from home, I need to be washed and dressed, clean, not smelly, and present on time. And if a PA oversleeps and is late for their shift, that means that I'm not necessarily up and dressed and at work on time. And this has a huge knock on effect in my industry because I do a lot of freelancing consultancy work and it's really easy to damage your reputation. So a PA kind of sleeping through their alarm, leaving the house 5 minutes late and missing the bus could be what results in me not getting a follow on piece of work that might be a several month contract. And I find that really difficult.
As a PA working in someone's private home, the importance of trust and maintaining boundaries cannot be overstated. These elements are essential for fostering a successful and professional PA-employer relationship.
A lot of my working life involves going to professional events, networking, etc. And I inevitably have a PA with me. And one of the really difficult things for PAs to learn is the boundary. They don't want to be completely silent and blank everyone because that just seems bizarre. But also, they're there to support me and it's not about them. And this is particularly challenging when, for example, it's a television career related meeting and the PA themselves wants to work in television, but it's really not their opportunity to try and pitch their great idea for a TV series to the commissioner I'm meeting, because actually they're there to support me in pitching my own TV series. And it's really important for me that PAs recognize that obviously be polite, be friendly, but in environments where it's my life, I'm going to be selfish actually and say it's about me, not them. And that what I need from them in that moment is to facilitate me having my life, because otherwise I would always just be in the shadow of whichever PA was working that day.
So I think boundaries are a tricky issue. When you've been working with somebody for a long time, you might become friends or your relationship might become a bit less formal than it was to begin with. And I think PAs might start to decide they know what's best for me. And they might disapprove when I do something else. But I think it's important that however well you kind of feel you know someone or that you, however well you connect, the PA and the employer connect, it's important that certain boundaries are always respected. So I think things like turning up to work on time, it's something that I should have the final decision on what I do and how I do it. I just being respectful and not being rude, I think is really important that whatever your relationship with your PA, you need to have those kind of basic boundaries.
So at the end of the day, my girls have access to everything. My finances, my medical stuff. You know, I live with my family, so my mum, so they hear all the family issues. They literally know every aspect of my life. And doing my personal care, they even know the ins and outs of my insides. Like they literally know everything. So it is crucial that I have a level of trust with them, and that I can rely on them, and that I know that they won't overstep that boundary. I have experienced PAs in the past overstep boundaries, and that was a horrible situation, but it gave me more tools, I suppose you'd say, to be a little bit more firmer with my PAs. And that having that firmness, having a friendly relationship, but also some firmness, that then results in having what I call a friendly working relationship in which you can build trust. You know, and to a degree, I know a lot about their life. I know all of their I know the financial things I have to deal with for their payroll. You know, I know their address. They tell me some of their family things. So it is a bit of a mutual thing. We both share information about each other. So it is really important to always be mindful of that.
So I depend on my PA for everything. So I need to be able to trust them completely. You know, they're working in my home, and I need to trust that they're not just going to abandon me and leave me alone and helpless. I need to trust that they're not going to hurt me. And, you know, if I say something they don't agree with, you know, I need to trust that they can deal with that professionally and I'm not going to be in danger. And also being in my home, they're surrounded by, you know, my private life, but also my documents, my financial records and financial like access and that kind of thing.
In this module, we've looked at how your employer will be dependent on you for lots of daily living tasks, and how it's important for you to try and understand this from their perspective. Ensuring your employer's needs are met whilst upholding their independence. How your actions can potentially have a negative or positive impact on your employer's independence. And the importance of trust and having boundaries, and how this can create a positive PA-employer relationship.